This is an application for a land use bylaw map amendment to rezone a property located on Marshall Road, Kingston. My name is Alice Jacob, and I'm a planner with the County of Kings. The purpose of the presentation is to inform the public about the application and to explain the planning policies that enable this application to occur and to also receive preliminary feedback from public. The application is still in its initial stages, so no opinions have been formed on this application and no decisions have been made yet. This is the standard process we follow for every application. The first step is to receive a complete application, which we have received. The second step is to hold a public information meeting in the community where the property is located. A public information meeting for this application was held on April 3rd at the Royal Canadian Legion in Kingston. Properties within 500 feet were notified, and it was also advertised on our website and social media sites. The meeting was not recorded. This is a re-recording of the presentation which was presented at the meeting. The third step of the process is a staff review, where staff will review this application against the applicable policies, and we will be contacting the relevant internal and external departments for their feedback on the application. A staff report is then prepared, which will be presented to the Planning Advisory Committee. If Planning Advisory Committee makes a positive recommendation to Council, Council will give this application a first reading and will forward it to a public hearing. Again, properties within 500 feet will be notified of the public hearing, and it will also be advertised on our website and social media sites. Public hearings are held in the council chambers and is an opportunity for members of the public to come in and share their concerns and comments directly with the council. Soon after the public hearing, the application will go for a second reading, and council will make a decision on the application. This decision will be advertised on our website and social media sites, and the application will move on to a 14-day appeal period. The County of Kings map. The red circle on the map is the approximate location of the property within Kingston. This is an aerial view of the subject property. The property is approximately 18 acres, has two frontages on Marshall Road. There are no existing buildings. Most of the property is covered in vegetation. To the west, the property borders the Annapolis County. The neighboring areas to the east, north, and south are developed with residential uses, which includes one-unit dwellings, two-unit dwellings, group dwellings, mobile homes, and multi-unit dwellings. The proposal is to rezone the property from its current zoning, which is the residential mixed density R3 zone, to the residential multi-unit R4 zone to permit increased flexibility for multi-unit residential development. I will explain the flexibility part in the upcoming slides. This map shows the zoning of the subject property and the surrounding area. The R2 zone to the north is the residential 1 and 2 unit zone, which permits uses like 1-unit dwellings, duplexes, semi-detached dwellings, and group dwellings, and a few other non-residential uses. The R3 zone and the R4 zones on the map are the residential mixed density and the residential multi-unit zones. In addition to the uses permitted within the R2 zone, the R3 and the R4 also permits housing forms like townhouses and multi-unit dwellings. The C3 zone on the map is the mixed commercial residential zone, which permits all forms of residential uses and some commercial uses, which are uses that are preferred close to residential neighborhoods. As mentioned earlier, the property is within the R3 zone. Multi-unit dwellings are a permitted use within the R3 zone, but the number of units within a dwelling is limited to 12, which means in this image, if this is a property with 4 dwellings, each dwelling could only have up to 12 units. The proposed R4 zone does not have this cap. These dwellings could have more than 12 units within them, and that is the flexibility that the applicant is looking for. The other major differences between R3 and R4 are the R3 zone permits approximately 21 to 22 acres, 22 units per acre, and the R4 zone permits 24 units per acre. The maximum height for a building in the R3 is 35 feet, and the R4 zone permits 45 feet. The side setback, which is the distance between the building and the side lot line, is 10 feet in the R3 zone, and it is slightly higher in the R4, which is 20 feet. Moving on to some photographs. On top right is a key map for reference. This is a view of the property from here. Here from the neighboring property. As can be seen, the property is covered in vegetation. This is the neighboring residential dwelling, which is located here on the map. And this is Marshall Road. This is the view of one of the frontages on Marshall Road, this frontage. And these are the neighboring residential dwellings. This is the view of the other frontage on Marshall Road, this frontage. And this is a view of the northern portion of the property from here on the map. In order for council to consider a rezoning, it has to be enabled by policies within our municipal planning strategy, which is our main policy document. This is a policy within the municipal planning strategy that enables this rezoning. It enables council to consider rezoning land from one zone enabled within a designation to another enabled within the same designation. And policy 3.1.3 lists all zones that are enabled within the residential designation. Criteria A of the policy further directs to policy 3.1.2. As can be seen, both the R3 and the R4 zones are listed within this policy. As a result, council is able to consider this rezoning. This is an additional policy that applies to all rezoning applications. In order for staff to form a recommendation, we would need to check if the proposal meets the intent of this policy. Criteria A, we would check if it would be appropriate to place the proposed zone, R4 zone, on the subject property. That is, if the intent of the R4 zone is being met through this rezoning. Criteria B, we would compare the uses permitted within the current zone, the R3 zone, and the proposed R4 zone to check if the impacts of the proposed development and other permitted uses within the new zone are acceptable. And criteria C, we would assess if the proposal meets the other criteria listed within our general policy. And this is the general policy. We would review the application to see if the proposal meets the intent of the municipal planning strategy, whether there are any conflicts with any provincial or municipal programs, bylaws, or regulations, whether the proposal would have any financial impact on the municipality or the village. Land use compatibility will be reviewed. The adequacy and proximity to schools, recreation, and community facilities will be reviewed. Most of the aspects within this policy are reviewed by us, the municipality, but there are a few that are not within our jurisdiction. and we would reach out to the relevant department for their feedback and comments. With regards to traffic access and egress, we would contact the Department of Public Works, which is a provincial department, for their comments and feedback. The Kingston Fire Department will be contacted for their input on fire protection and services. The adequacy of sewer services will be reviewed by the Village of Kingston. Potential for flooding and drainage will be reviewed by us. We will reach out to the Department of Environment for their feedback on any potential impacts on wetlands. And finally, the site suitability will be reviewed by us, the municipality. And that concludes the presentation, and this is my contact information. If there are any questions or comments with regard to this application, please feel free to reach out. Thank you.